Hi friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie and this is Steph's on a Budget. This is my very first video, so I'm gonna sound really nervous, but I'm super excited. I've been budgeting since January of 2020, so this is going to be going into my third year. And I've been wanting to do a YouTube channel for a long time. I just am busy and have been nervous and haven't really had the guts to do it. And so this year I'm making a goal for myself to just put myself out there and give it a shot. So welcome to my first video. I hope you'll subscribe and stick around long term while me and my family, we're a family of 6, me and my husband, we've got 4 children. Our oldest did recently move out of the house this year, but I still say we're a family of 6. But I hope you'll stick around and see how we budget, maybe learn a few things, or teach me a few things on our journey as we work to increase savings and allocate money to things we find joy in. And also, we'll be paying off quite a bit of debt. I know most channels start with their kind of debt confession story, and I do hope to make that video for you guys, but I do have a debt that's coming to my credit, and I don't have that exact amount yet, so I'm not quite ready to share that with you guys yet, but when the time comes, I definitely will. We also have 2 dogs who my Aussie's looking at me like, Mom, what are you doing? So if you hear any barking, they're wondering what the heck Mom is doing. But anywho, this first video is going to be me setting up our very first January paycheck budget. My husband and I are both paid on the same day on Fridays and on a bi-weekly basis. So, you know, technically we're getting paid, this is the 31st. But we always get paid by Thursday evening just with our bank. And so I like to have this budget set up by Thursday day. You know, technically it's a December paycheck, but it's going to pay 98% of January bills. So we're going to call it a January paycheck. All right. So jumping in, I do follow the Budget Mom method, and in the past have used her workbooks and bought a digital one this year since a new one wasn't released, and I have bound it in a happy planner, which honestly I'm loving because as a left-handed person, you know, being able to pull out my pages has been wonderful. All right, so, oh, sorry, bumped y'all. All right, so jumping on in, let's take a look. The first thing we're gonna look at is my January monthly spread. Actually, let's jump back to December since we're getting paid here. I'm sorry, on the 30th actually. So you can see that payday is here, but we're paying a few things here in red, and then primarily January bills. So we're going to be working off this monthly spread to create our first January bill tracker. So again, this you know, disc bound system, loving it. I'm going to go ahead and pop that out, and let's grab a pen. Okay guys, so we're all set here. So I went ahead and filled in my expenses just to save a little bit of time, but we're going to go ahead and start writing in the numbers. So, excuse me, first paycheck, hopefully y'all can see this, 2,600, and then the second one we're expecting is 1,700. Grab a calculator. So that is 4,300 for expected income, and oh, let me pop this in here. Okay. So looking at fixed expenses first, and this is what I'm pulling off of the spread. So everything in red here is what is going to get paid with this paycheck. So we're going to be paying half the mortgage, which this paycheck is actually going to be the second half of the mortgage. So I saved that first half with that paycheck in the middle of December. So this is that second half that will cover January's mortgage. So that'll be $11.50. Next up, we have an Apple Card. We did increase this balance, so I'm not sure what the minimum payment on this is right now, and I won't know until after the 1st of January. So I'm gonna go ahead and put $200 towards that, which is not the minimum payment, but it will cover the minimum payment and some extra spending that happened there. Next we have you'll actually see the next thing is a student loan. So I have a current student loan that's on deferment, obviously. So, you know, what I've been doing with that is I keep it as a line item in the budget because eventually that payment will come back, maybe. But what I've been doing is still, you know, using it as a bill in my budget, and I've just been taking that payment and actually throwing it towards a debt snowball. That way, when payments do come back, it's not going to be a hit to my budget. I'm already used to that money coming out. It'll just obviously, instead of going to the current debt we're working on, it'll go back to the student loan debt. So I don't put it here in the fixed expenses. I move it over here to this extra debt, and that payment will be for $100. And then next up is Home Depot, also $100. So our minimum payment on our Home Depot card is only $30 or $39. But you'll see, I don't ever stick to the minimum payments. We kind of set the minimum payments for all of our cards at $100, and we've always done that even before I budgeted, just to, you know, hopefully pay down balances quicker. And whatnot. So, you know, before, when we had a higher debt snowball that I'll talk to you a little bit about here in a minute, that seemed to be just fine. But now that our debt snowball is a little bit lower, which I'll talk to you about, we might actually go back to some minimum payments to have a little bit more to throw at the current debt. But I haven't decided yet if I want to do that or not. So for now, we'll leave it at the $100. Then you'll see I have this debt snowball line. So we used to have a much higher debt snowball, and this month it's decreasing to what I thought was $575, but it's actually going to be $500. And the reason we had to drop the debt snowball is for a couple reasons. We had a car accident in May. In August, I'm sorry, and we were rear-ended, and they totaled out that vehicle. So we just got into a new vehicle because, you know, with the way of the world these days, you have to like wait for one to be built. And so we didn't get a vehicle until December for, you know, a car we ordered in, gosh, I think October. So that's been a fun, interesting ride. But nonetheless, our car payment is higher, obviously, because our other car was pre, you know, pandemic. So much better, just a much better time to purchase a vehicle. Right now is not the time to have to purchase a vehicle, but there was no way around it. So we have a higher car payment. Our mortgage went up due to an escrow shortage and increasing property taxes. I've been seeing a lot of that across social media. So, you know, I don't love it, but I feel lumped in with the rest of the world in the mortgage, and as far as mortgage goes. So I guess that's good. Also, subscriptions are increasing. And then the other thing we saw a significant jump in was our car insurance, which, oh gosh, it just makes me so angry to think about. But it just is what it is, and we have to have the insurance. And we did shop around rates, but our current provider ended up being the best, so we just stuck with them. So due to all those increases in the budget, it dropped our snowball down to where we could, you know, still comfortably, you know, pay our fixed expenses, our variable expenses, and still have a little bit for savings and sinking funds and whatnot. So long story short is we had some debt snowball things in the budget that aren't going to fit anymore, right? So we're dropping way down to 500. So this one will just be no more. It was just in my January spread before all this stuff happened, because we've been paying that for about 1.5 years. So that will not be there in February, unfortunately. So moving on, next up is the internet. We pay, oops, sorry to bump y'all there. We pay $50 for that. And I know it's hard for you to see because I'm left-handed, but hopefully this is working okay. Next up, we have Amazon. Again, I think that minimum is $30, but we'll put $100 there. Same for Bank of America. I think that minimum is $25, but $100 there. Pandora, it gets $50. A PF subscription is $6. My gas bill, gosh, one thing I see in other budgets that I'm so jealous of is our utilities are pretty high compared to what I see other budgeters have. I wish I had those lower utilities, but just is what it is. So our gas bill this month is $168. So I'm going to budget $169 there. And then we see this next debt snowball. So it was for $600, but since the new debt snowball is now $500 a month, we're only going to allocate $400 towards that. And then, of course, if we have extra, you know, it'll go here. So then we have the electric bill, which is $226 budgeted. And then last up is Apple TV, which my subscriptions have gone up. So I think that's $8 now. And then the next thing you see here is car insurance extra. So my car insurance is not allocated until the next paycheck, but we have a full month of car insurance, plus we got our new vehicle in December, early December, and they didn't charge us in the moment for that. They just kind of prorated it on to January's payment. So January, we've got, you know, a full month of all the vehicles, including, you know, a prorated for the new vehicle for December. So it's pretty high. So I actually want to put $200 towards that. That way, you know, I have enough to cover my expenses next pay period. Okay, so that takes care of the fixed expenses. So adding all of that up, bring the calculator over here for you guys. $23.59. Okay, and then if we take that from the $4,300, that leaves us $19.41 to bring down into the variable expenses. Okay, so groceries, another, you know, we're definitely feeling the inflation like most of you probably, and hopefully you're not getting too bad of a glare because here comes the sun. Looks like you are. So let me try closing these blinds. Oh, much better, much better. Okay. So like I was saying, we're definitely feeling inflation like probably most of you. So we've been steadily increasing this grocery budget. So we're going to put $300 towards groceries, and our variable expenses cover us for a 2-week period, so it's about $150 a week. Costco, we put $200 towards. We don't always use that, but if I can put it in the budget, I like to. We do shop there often, but you know, if we're ever short in a category, this is where we always pull from first, and we just don't go. Next up is going to be gas for $150. Which probably needs to increase due to just me needing to drive a little bit more for work now that we're back to home visiting. Spending, mom and dad, again for 2 weeks, is $300. House and beauty is $40. Miscellaneous $40. Takeout is $100. My husband gets $100 towards work. And then we put $32 towards water for 2 weeks. This is not like utility water. We, you know, get water from a company like, you know, if I can think of words here, sorry. We just, instead of like buying water bottles or anything like that, because we don't drink our tap water, this covers us for 2 weeks. And oftentimes, you know, this pays for like 50 gallons of water at a time, including a tip. Sometimes it lasts longer than the 2 weeks. So oftentimes I'll have this money to roll over. But so that is our variable expenses. So let's add all that up. $1,262 sounds about right. I recognize that our variable expenses are quite a bit higher than a lot of other budgeters. We definitely have some wiggle room to, you know, cut down on some of those expenses, but I think just given, you know, just where we're at in our budget, you know, this is where we're comfortable, and some of these things maybe a little higher than they need to be, but I just kind of feel like, you know, budgeting is unique in that way, and we're just the type of people, if we pinch too hard, you know, we probably will fall off. So this kind of just helps us stay on track a little bit more, having a little bit more access to spending money, I think. So let me just check some math again. 1941. Okay, $679. I knew something there didn't seem right. So after that, we're left with the $679. So normally you'd come up next to sinking funds, but savings is not our priority. My husband and I, we do have an emergency fund in place. Eventually we'd like to increase that, but you know, it's a good number for us right now. So we did work on, you know, savings and sinking funds first. And so now our priority is actually debt. So we're throwing as much to debt as we can and less to savings. So we're actually going to jump down to extra debt where we have that debt snowball. So that $679 will come down there. And then we're going to take off the $500, right? So that leaves us with $179 for sinking funds, which I think is completely reasonable. So we'll bring up that $179. So sinking funds, Christmas and softball are my top 2 priority sinking funds. I'm also going to put some money into pets because we have the 2 dogs and they'll eventually need some food here coming up. And then I have 7 other kind of like, you know, sinking funds. I just didn't, you know, the list gets lengthy writing them all out. So, you know, this is things like kids spending money, clothing, family fun, car maintenance, things like that. So I just always just do sinking funds, and there's 7 of them. And you know, they're kind of lower priority, if you will. So I think what we'll do is 50 to Christmas, where we do tend to spend a lot at Christmas time. So the bigger jump and the quicker jump I can get on that, the better. Also, my 14-year-old daughter plays on a travel softball team. So she travels often and far and for long periods of time, especially for her spring summer season. So I'm really wanting to beef this sinking fund up quite a bit to help cover that. So we'll put 50 there, and I'm going to throw 20 at pets, which I think leaves us 59 for the other 7, right? So yeah, 59. Okay. So that gives us the 179 for sinking funds, which then brings us to that zero-based budget. Again, like I said, savings right now is not our priority, so we're not sending anything extra into any sort of other savings. We'll just end it here at our sinking funds. All right, guys, so that's how we plan to allocate our $4,300 income for this paycheck, which is the 30th of December, but covering January bills. So we'll stick this guy back in here. And then we are all set. Thank you if you've made it this far into the video. Thanks for joining me for my first video. I hope it made, you know, good sense being my first video, very nervous. But if you enjoyed this content, I hope you'll give it a like and subscribe for future videos. And I hope to have another video up for you all tomorrow with our cash stuffing. Thanks guys, bye.